Good evening from New York. I'm Lawrence Donnell. My first guest tonight, the distinguished gentleman from Delaware, Vice President Joe Biden. We taped our interview earlier tonight. Mr. Vice President, thanks for joining us tonight.
I'm happy to be with you.
Thanks. At the UN last week, President Obama asked the Israelis to extend the freeze on West Bank settlement construction, but they actually allowed the freeze to expire at midnight last night. The West Bank settlers today have been celebrating, some of them already beginning to build. Should Prime Minister Netanyahu extend the freeze on the settlements, and if he doesn't, are the peace talks doomed?
I don't think the peace talks are doomed. It's a very politically difficult situation for both Mr. Abbas as well as for Prime Minister Netanyahu. And the good news is that the talks have not ended. You have President Abbas saying that he would take under consideration what the next move would be. You have Bibi Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, saying he wants to continue these talks. And George Mitchell is headed to the region as I speak, and we still hope there'll be a way to bridge this divide to keep the talks going.
As we all know, Bob Woodward has a hot new Inside the White House book out there, which we will get to in a moment. But I want to go back one book to the first Inside the Obama White House book by Jonathan Alter, The Promise. In that book, you tell the president not to do health care in the first 2 years. You urged him instead to concentrate on the economy and on jobs. If the president had followed your advice that you were giving him at that time, what would the unemployment numbers look like now, and where would the Democrats be in the congressional campaign?
Look, Lawrence, I'm not going to confirm anything that I've said to the president privately. The advice I give him is that. Hopefully he listens to it because I give it only to him. I don't discuss it on the air. I think the president did a remarkable thing that no president has been able to do since Teddy Roosevelt, actually deliver a fundamental change in health care, which is now only beginning to roll out. And one of the very positive things about the health care proposal of the president's, it is going to drive down the deficit, the long-term debt, by $100 billion the next 10 years and $1 trillion after that, the following 10. So I think the president deserves remarkable credit for such a monumental piece of legislation.
Now, as everyone knows, the economy is always the most important factor in national elections. Unemployment today is running almost 50% higher than in 1994, when the Democrats last lost control of both the House and the Senate. Is that what you meant when you said today, if we make this referendum on the current state of affairs, we lose?
Yes, because look, people are angry. People are upset. People are like the kitchen table I grew up around. When there was a recession and unemployment, the people sitting around that table, the adults, my uncles, my dad, they worried about whether they're going to lose their job. And so people are frightened and they're angry. And and they have a right to be angry, and we're in charge, and they're focusing on us right now. So if it's just a referendum on the state of the nation, then we're in trouble. But it is a choice. All elections are a choice. And the choice between what the Republicans are offering, as Pete Sessions, who's the congressman, a very good guy, very smart guy, said when asked whether if Republicans took control of the House, what would he do? He said we'd go back to the same exact agenda. We have to make it clear what we've done and what we're offering to do, what we're planning to do from here, and what they've done to get us in this mess, and what they're offering. That is not a choice. That's not a referendum. That's a choice. And if we do that, we're going to be just fine.
Mr. Vice President, the Democrats' tax position is to allow the current tax rates, the Bush tax rates, to stay in place for everyone except the top brackets. If that's a winning political position, why shouldn't the Democrats in the House and the Senate vote on it now before the election?
Well, look, I'm not sitting in the Senate any longer doing it day to day. The leader of the House and the leader of the Senate have made their own judgments about everything from filibusters to tactical maneuvers the other side would take. The important thing is that we accomplish what we're setting out to do. Give middle-class taxpayers a tax break, and by the way, everyone would get a tax break, even multimillionaires. They'd get the same tax break that somebody got at $250,000 instead of, look, $700 billion that the Republicans want to spend on continuing the tax breaks for the very wealthy, $360 billion of that goes to 120,000 families that have an average income of $8.3 million. They're good people, but what are they going to do with $310,000 tax break they can't do with the $8 million they have? Whereas the tax break for a family of four making $50,000 is $2,100, or a family of four making $100,000 is $4,100. That's the difference between making your car payment, your car insurance, keeping your kid in college, being able to pay your bills. And what we want to do is we want to give middle-class taxpayers the money to be able to go out and do the things they need to do, generate economic growth in this economy, and we want to take that $700 billion and pay down the debt. And our Republican friends, I find them kind of fascinating. They keep lecturing us about the debt they created, and now they're talking about wanting to extend a tax cut that costs $700 billion for the very wealthiest among us without paying for it.
Now, the East Coast seems to have its own Sarah Palin in Christine O'Donnell. You are the only Democrat alive who has beaten both of them in elections. Now, what do you have to teach Democrats about how to stop the Palin, no relation, by the way, on O'Donnell, the Palin-O'Donnell phenomenon?
Take them both very seriously. Treat them with respect, debate their ideas, and don't get diverted by all these silly things that they may or may not have said that have nothing to do with policy. The reason what we should be doing, the Democrats, is focusing on what they are offering and those who agree with them and what they are against, and compare it to what we are for and what we're against. And the truth of the matter is, when we do that, we'll do just fine. But Lawrence, actually, I really think that the win in Delaware, and I'm sorry to see a really first-rate guy lose, but, although he would be a much tougher candidate, I suspect, the fact of the matter is that it's a wake-up call, not just for Republicans, but for Democrats. There's a lot of Democrats who might have been thinking about doing exactly what a lot of Republicans did, not show up and vote in the primary. Well, this is a wake-up call to Democrats. We have to show up, and we have to make our case and focus on the differences, not their personalities.
You sent out a fundraising email today saying, quote, Republicans running now are not your grandfather's Republican Party. They're from the Republican Tea Party. Now, is there a risk in an email like that it could stimulate more Tea Party energy than anti-Tea Party energy?
Well, look, I don't think a lot of the Tea Party folks are just normal. They're all normal Americans, but they're Americans who are just angry and fed up. Others are ideologically very hard right and are against everything from, Social Security to Medicare and wanting to privatize it and all those things. The fact of the matter is that what I really said was that this is not even your father's Republican Party. These folks don't want to talk. These folks don't want to enter into a compromise. These folks don't want to come up with practical solutions. I know what they're against. What I don't know is what they're for. Why are they against us trying to stimulate jobs by giving tax cuts to the middle class? Why are they against us stimulating jobs by giving tax breaks to small businesses, which in fact are the ones that create the jobs? Why don't they think it's important to develop alternative energy and all the jobs that would flow from those green jobs and encourage manufacturing to stay here in the United States? Why is it they don't even support the president's proposal to continue to increase our investment in infrastructure, which would be necessary even if we had full employment? I know what they're against. They're against all those things. I just don't know what they're for.
And today you said that your base in the Democratic Party should, quote, stop whining. I'm going to give you an opportunity that you used to have in the Senate, Mr. Vice President. Would you like to revise and extend your remarks on that?
Yes. What I mean by there's some on the Democratic base, not the core of it, that are angry because we didn't get every single thing they want. We've got a health care bill that is every day will become more apparent how much it does for people and businesses in terms of cost and availability. But because there was no public option, some of them are so angry they say, we're not going to participate. They should stop that. These guys, if they win the other team, they're going to repeal health care, and I want them to tell me why what we did wasn't an incredibly significant move that's progressive and helping people. The same way with a lot of other issues. It's time to focus. This is a choice. The president has done a remarkable job, given the fact that you and I had a mutual friend, Pat Moynihan. When Pat Moynihan, when you were running his show and I was his colleague, a majority in the Senate used to mean 51 votes. Since we've gotten elected, Barack Obama and Joe Biden, there's a new majority in the Senate, 60 votes. What the president's been able to do has been truly remarkable with the help of a Democratic Congress. And so those who didn't get everything they wanted, it's time to just buck up here, understand that we can make things better, continue to move forward, but not yield the playing field to those folks who are against everything that we stand for in terms of the initiatives we put forward.
You know, I didn't think of myself as running Pat Moynihan's show. Liz Moynihan ran Pat Moynihan's show,
true.
as you can remember.
That's true. I know, I do, and if she's listening, I send her my love, and also their lovely daughter. They're a great family.
Vice President Joe Biden with us on our premiere of The Last Word. We'll bring you more of my exclusive interview with the Vice President later in the hour, including his reaction to the new Bob Woodward book, Obama's Wars. But first, I'm joined by Keith Olbermann, host of Countdown and author of the upcoming book, Pitchforks and Torches. Keith, what do you make of Joe Biden's explanation of his stop whining comment that he made earlier today? He's changed it here to buck up.
I had a long conversation with the vice president when we were still running for president in I guess early in 2007, and we were talking about how to, when to utilize anger on television or in the Senate or in the platform somewhere, and the only advice I could give a professional public speaker was think about the anger. Use the anger on behalf of your constituents, not towards them. And my impression from this was that it was a little of the anger towards them being expressed, and that's never a good thing. And it's sort of the Democratic liberal bases have been somewhat responsible for this disconnect with the White House, but the White House has been just as responsible for it, and it's little things like that really tell the tale, unfortunately.
You don't get the feeling that he and the staff at that point are quite aware of what they've created online in terms of objections flowing to this?
Yes and no, but it's always, it's a guess whether they happen to have the right end of the telescope in their eyes when this happens. What you want to hear that vice president, with his gift for getting angry and getting righteously angry, is to have him say, on your behalf, we're going to go out there and stop these people. And that, it's like, don't just sit there and whine or complain about it. Join us as we go out there and get them. And then he gets to say both what he feels, which is kind of a, buck up, get in line, join the team again, and also say this is the reason for it. We are going to be a little bit more, a little less tremulous in the next 40 days.
Keith, thanks for hanging around for some extra duty tonight.